Hello friends, we're back again for the Tale of Despereaux. Book the third, Gore, a Tale of Miggery Sow. Chapter 24. A handful of cigarettes, a red tablecloth, and a hen. Again, readers, we must go backwards before we can go forward. With that said, here begins a short history of the life and times of Miggery Sow, a girl born into this world many years before the mouse, Despereaux, and the rat, Risquiro. A girl born far from the castle, a girl named for her father's prize-winning pig. Miggery Sow was 6 years old when her mother, holding on to Mig's hand and staring directly into Mig's eyes, died. "Ma," said Mig, "Ma, couldn't you just stay here with me?" "Oh," said her mother, "who is that? Who is that holding my hand?" "It's me, Ma, Miggery Sow." "Oh, child, let me go." "But I want you to stay here," said Mig, wiping first her runny nose and then her runny eyes. "You want?" said her mother. "Yes," said Mig, "I want." "Oh, child, and what does it matter what you are wanting?" her mother said. She squeezed Mig's hand once, twice, and then she died, leaving Mig alone with her father, who, on a market day in spring, soon after his wife's death, sold his daughter into service for a handful of cigarettes, a red tablecloth, and a hen. "Papa," said Mig, when her father was walking away from her with the hen in his arms and a cigarette in his mouth and the red tablecloth draped over his shoulders like a cape. "Go on, Mig," he said. "You belong to that man now." "But I don't want to, Papa." I want to go with you." She took hold of the red tablecloth and tugged on it. "Lord, child," said her father, "and who's asking you what you want? Go on now." He untangled her fingers from the cloth and turned her in direction of the man who had just bought her. Mig watched her father walk away. The red tablecloth bellowed out behind him. He left his daughter. And readers, as you already know, he did not look back, not even once. Can you imagine? Can you imagine your father selling you for a tablecloth, a hen, and a handful of cigarettes? Oh, just close your eyes, please, and consider it for a moment. Done? I hope the hair on the back of your neck is sticking up as you thought of Mig's fate and how it would be if it was just your own. Poor Mig. What will become of her? You must, frightened though you may be, read on and see for yourself. Readers, it is your duty. Chapter 25, A Vicious Cycle. Miggery Sow called the man who purchased her uncle, as he said she must. And also, as he said she must, Mig tended to uncle's sheep, and cooked uncle's food, and scrubbed uncle's kettle. She did all of this without a word of thanks or praise from the man himself. And another unfortunate fact of life with Uncle was that he very much liked giving Mig what he referred to a good clout to the ear. In fairness, Uncle, it must be reported that he did always inquire or ask whether or not Mig was interested in receiving the clout. Their daily exchanges went something like this. Uncle: "I thought I told you to clean the kettles." Mig: I cleaned it, Uncle. I did it good. Uncle: "It's filthy. You'll have to be punished, won't ye?" "Gore, Uncle, I cleaned the kettle." Uncle: "Are you saying I'm a liar, girl?" No, Uncle, I'm not." "Do you want a good clout to the ear, then?" Mig: "No, thank you, Uncle, I don't." Alas, Uncle seemed to be entirely unconcerned with what Mig wanted, as her father and mother had been. The discussed clout to the ear was always delivered, and delivered, I'm afraid, with a great deal of emphasis on Uncle's part. and received with absolutely no emphasis at all on Mig's part. These clouts were alarmingly frequent. And Uncle was fair in paying attention to both the right and the left side of Miggery Sow. So it was that after a time, young Mig's ears came to resemble not much ears, but rather pieces of cauliflower stuck to either side of her head. And they became about as useful as cauliflower stuck to your head. That is to say, they all but ceased their functioning as ears. Words for Mig lost their sharp edges, and then they lost edges altogether and became blurry, blankety things that she had a great deal of trouble making sense out of it all. The less Mig could actually hear, the less she understood. The less she understood, the more things she did wrong. And the more things she did wrong, the more clouts to the ear she received, and the less again she heard. This is what is known as a vicious circle. And Miggery Sow was right in the center of it, which is not, readers, where anybody would want to be. But then, as you know, what Miggery Sow wanted had never been of much concern to anyone. Chapter 26, Royalty. When Mig turned 7 years old, there was no cake, there was no celebration, there was no singing, no presents, no even acknowledgement of her birthday at all, other than Mig saying, "Uncle, today I'm 7 years old." And Uncle saying in return, "Did I ask ye how old you were? Get out of my face before I give you another good clap to the ear." A few hours after, though, receiving her birthday clap to the ear, Mig was out in the field with Uncle's sheep when she saw something glittering and glowing on the horizon. She thought for a moment that it was the sun, but she turned and saw the sun was in the west, where it should be, sinking down into the earth. This thing that shone so brightly was something else. Mig stood in the field and shaded her eyes with her left hand and watched the brilliant light draw closer and closer and closer until it revealed itself to be King Philip and his queen Rosemary and their daughter, the young Princess P. The royal family was surrounded by knights in shining armor and horses in shining armor, and on top of each member of the royal family's head, there stood a golden crown, and they all were the king, the queen, and the princess, dressed in robes decorated with jewels and sequences that glittered and glowed and captured the light of the setting sun and reflecting it back. "Gore," breathed Mig. The princess was riding on a white horse that picked up its legs very high and set them down very daintily. The P saw Mig standing and staring, and she raised her hand to her. "Hello!" The Princess P called out merrily. "Hello," she said, waving again. Mig did not wave back. Instead, she stood and watched. She stood and watched open-mouthed as the perfect, beautiful family passed by. "Papa," the princess called to the king, "what is wrong with that girl? She will not wave to me." "Never mind," said the king. "It is of no consequence, my dear." "But I am a princess, and I wave to her. She should wave back." Mig, for her part, continued to stare. Looking at the royal family had awakened something deep and slumbering in her. It was as if a small candle had been lit inside her, sparking to life the brilliance of the king and the queen and the princess. For the first time in her life, readers, Mig hoped. And hope like love, is ridiculous and wonderful and powerful. Mig tried to name this strange emotion. She put her hand up to touch one of her aching ears, and then she realized the feeling she was experiencing, the hope blooming inside her, was exactly the opposite of a good clout. She smiled and took her hand away from her ear. She waved to the princess. "Today is my birthday!" Mig called out. But the king and the queen and the princess were now too far away to hear. "Today," shouted Mig, "I'm 7 years old!" And that is where we will stop for today.